Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen. A special live stream. Here we are on a Thursday. Got an episode tomorrow for everybody dropping the preview of Pitt versus North Carolina down in Chapel Hill. That'll be released tomorrow. But it's crazy. Big news ended up coming out today. The news of the day. Rodney Hammond no longer ineligible. He's eligible, and he will be playing against the North Carolina Tar Heels down in Chapel Hill at noontime on Saturday. Guys, as you always know, before we really get into it, one, subscribe to the channel. If you're over on X, head over to YouTube. Catch our show on there, obviously. And, of course, always subscribe to the channel and then hit the like button down below. It certainly helps out with the algorithm and helps the show continue to grow. So we really, truly appreciate that. And before we get started, you guys always know the show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. As you guys always know, it's run by two great Pittmen, a small business. Anytime you can help out a small business in the Pittsburgh area, you can never go wrong with that. Obviously, you guys have seen the pictures that I've posted. It's a great place, obviously, in terms of selection, your light beers, your heavier lagers. Plenty of different selection in terms of what you're looking for in a place like that. Before you head down to the tailgates, make sure you go out there and go see my friends at Colonial Beer. Or if you're having a setup at your house, make sure you go see them over in Bethel Park. And obviously, too, when you're in there, get the Icy Light beer can. They got plenty in there. They're restocked again. And also, too, the Fake Slide Pilsner, which is also really helps pay the players and also helps support Alliance 412, which is the preferred collective of the University of Pittsburgh guys. As always, go see my friend at Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. But also, too, a new sponsor for us here today, and this one's a special one. The show is sponsored by Thompson Law Group and Brian Thompson. The great thing about Brian, I know Brian personally, a guy who's truly incredible. Consider him one more than just a friend. He's actually family. And let me tell you right now, with many people struggling with the economy and rising costs, they're helping many people and businesses with their debts, and they're offering free telephone consultations to assess all options available to those who are struggling, no matter the type of amount of debt. You can reach them at 724-799-8404. And also check them out at thompsonattorney.com. Again, Brian is truly one of the best, personally, someone that I use personally, a guy that really looks out for the people he actually represents. At larger law firms, to be looked at not as an individual, but a number. With Brian Thompson, I know personally, he takes care of the individual because he wants to see the individual come out successful in any type of endeavor that they're going into. But also, too, the great work that he does in the community, especially, too, he's got a tremendous family, more importantly, great wife and tremendous kids. So I can tell you this, he's an incredible individual. If you're looking for a consultation, again, reach out to Thompson Law Group and Brian Thompson. Obviously, again, you can reach them at 724-799-8404 or at thompsonattorney.com. Again, a new proud sponsor of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. And again, beyond blessed to have those two. Obviously, Brian Thompson, a guy, again, that I know. Colonial Beer, someone that I know, and just personal relationships. And it's truly a privilege to bring people onto the show, but more importantly, have the support of great people like Brian Thompson, like Colonial Beer. It's just truly incredible. Again, you got issues or you need someone to call them at 724-799-8404 at thompsonattorney.com. Guys, before we get into it here, obviously in the comments section, of course, WRW Pitt, smash the like button and subscribe. Of course, Hammond is back. Rodney Hammond is back. And again, we'll get into the Rodney Hammond situation here tonight. Also, a look around the ACC. What does that look like? Obviously, Chicken 1515 Boomer Sooner. JJ, amen, brother. Oklahoma Sooners here. JJ's buying the first round. 100%. Amen, man. Well, guys, as we get into it here, obviously the news of the day, Rodney Hammond is officially eligible to play in this season, which is truly incredible. I think what's really incredible right now is that just you look at the running back room where you really had questions in terms of, hey, we need to keep a guy like Desmond Reed healthy. You need to keep, Derek Davis Jr. healthy, really your top two backs, potentially even a guy like Daniel Carter. but really an effective back and a guy that really produced at a high level consistently all year has been Desmond Reed. But now you have two guys for sure that can go. What I can tell you is this right now. I had heard about this news early on last week. Wasn't sure if he was going to get the clearance or not. That was still a huge question mark. I think a lot of people were kind of doubting it because he was ruled ineligible at the beginning of the year. But when more and more sources reached out, and then this morning, when I heard about, hey, there's going to be a discussion later on this afternoon about Rodney Hammond being eligible, I couldn't believe it. But obviously, too, Rodney's a great individual, certainly a great Pitt man. Stayed at Pitt for a reason because he loves the university, he loves his teammates. But one of the things that's really good right now is the depth. Obviously, right now, I can assure you that Desmond Reed is the starter, and he will continue to be the starter because right now Desmond Reed's almost having a pretty much a Heisman candidate year. Is kind of what we're looking at this point. He continues to put up massive numbers, whether it's through the rushing attack or through the air when he's able to create one-on-one mismatches and he's able to get large chunk gains even after contact, which has been a huge thing that people have really talked about for how long. I think overall, when you look at a running back, you really want to see what is the yardage after contact, the yards after catch. And he's been a guy who's been really productive. But now it's really nice is the way that this offense is formed, the way that this offense continually runs. It's a fast-paced one. You got to have more than one running back. And right now you have a guy that hasn't played in the first 4 games, 8 games remaining, truly fresh. I really, to me right now, you have 2, 3, 4 running backs that can truly go into the game right now that can play at a high level. I think overall, you can't be even any more happy about it. Obviously, Pat Narduzzi was asked about today. What was it that he was suspended for? What was the reasoning behind him becoming eligible again? From numerous people I've heard, it was Heather Light that kind of pushed for the suspension. I don't know if Pat Narduzzi agreed with her on that. I think just in terms of compliance, we've heard a number of different rumors. I'm not going to put it out there. Have a little bit of a dialogue behind it, but we truly don't know the full story. But the one thing that is true right now is he is 100% eligible, and he will be playing, and he will get touches on Saturday. I think overall you got to be happy with the situation. You go into a game right now where you go into Chapel Hill, and again, I'll talk about it more tomorrow on the preview that I'll drop tomorrow morning. But when you go into a place like North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where Pitt is 0-7 in terms of playing at North Carolina, you got to be full hands on deck. I think that when you look at overall Pitt situation right now, it's all going in the right direction. And I think this team has plenty of good leadership on it to where you're looking at this team from a top to bottom setting, and you're looking at a lot of leadership. I think at the top, obviously a great article by David Hale. If you have not seen that article, I suggest that you do. Tremendous article on a national scale, just how great Pitt is humming right now. But just Pat Narduzzi making the adjustment, not being afraid of the up-tempo offense and really the spread, not being scared of it anymore, and really embracing it. Kay Bell talking about how Eli Holstein coming in and really embracing hard work, truly developing himself as a leader, but he was a listener first, then became a true leader on this team. Pat Narduzzi also talked about how Eli Holstein would come in at 6:30 in the morning during fall camp to go over the defensive side of the football, a trait that he picked up while he was playing at the University of Alabama. And I can tell you this, people can say what they want. In terms of the SEC, Alabama and Georgia really are the two staples of that conference, and two teams that do things the right way to prepare people for the NFL level. It has certainly developed plenty of good players in the NFL. The amount of Hall of Famers through Pitt that went to the NFL, it consistently shows. But the attributes that Eli Holstein picked up while being at Alabama, talking to Clinton Dix about why it was important to learn the defensive side of the football from a defensive guy. You learn more about defensive football from the defensive players and the schematics behind it, where the pressures come from, understanding the disguises, understanding where the blitz pickups are, just not relying on your center to make those calls from the outside in, knowing where the Mike linebacker is, where the pressure could potentially come from up the middle on the side. So overall, I mean, you look at the way going for Pitt right now, it looks really good. But we'll see what this team looks like in terms of what it looks like coming off of a bye week. We've had good and we've had bad. Over recent years, Pitt has come out looking great after a bye week, and there's times that Pitt has not come out looking good after a bye week. I think personally Pitt should be coming into this game with a chip on their shoulder. You're 0-7 at North Carolina in Chapel Hill. I think this is not going to be an easy game. You look at the ACC. I don't care, how wounded a team is or how many tough losses. Each game is going to be a battle, and it's been proven through that year over year over year. But I think really Pitt's on the verge of really having a really special season again. And it's something you saw in 2021. It depends on, can this team really pull forward and do what it needs to do to win these football games. Adding Rodney Hammond back only helps. And it's almost as if there's more and more good news. Also, I expect Sean Fitzsimmons to play on Saturday in North Carolina. I expect him to be a full participant. I think he's done a good job this week. I expect him to play. That'll be a guy that, I think fans, have to be patient with. He hasn't played all year, hasn't played a live game. He's a tremendous football player. He'll add more depth at defensive line. And I think as he gets more repetitions, he'll probably work his way up to being a starter. Again, you heard Pat Narduzzi talk about this week on the defensive line. The best defensive tackle they have right now would be Nick James. The amount of pressure he's able to cause. Also, too, how he's been productive in the run game. Another name up there is Nakai Johnson. Nakai Johnson, a guy who consistently shows, he can play at a high level. He makes the disruptive plays. But you got to have the motor all the time. They want to see consistency. The consistency to play at a high level and the effort and the energy to be a dominant player. And the same thing goes for a guy like Rasheed Miles. Talked about how he had to readjust his goals because he's already achieved some of them. And, Pat Narduzzi kind of said, jokingly, like, hey, I'm a little disappointed in that he had that low of goals because, we haven't really achieved nothing yet. And Narduzzi's right. Pitt has not achieved anything yet. It's 4-0 out of conference schedule, but to get to the playoffs, you got to win your conference. And guess what? This will be the first game, and you want to start it off right. And we talk about this team starting off fast. I really want to see that. And again, we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but I want to see this team start out fast. I want to see it get points on the board, whether it's 3 or 7, get some points on the board. I'm going to see a full collective game out of the defensive line. We've talked about the numerous pressures that Pitt's defensive line and defense has created, but it's the lack of ability to create that makes the tackle on the spot and not letting the quarterback make a move. Omarion Hampton, the starting running back from North Carolina, is going to be the best running back we have faced to this point, better than C.J. Donaldson or Jaheim White. I think Jaheim White was really, missing during the West Virginia game. But in terms of big guys, C.J. Donaldson, I think, Omarion Hampton is better than him for sure. And also, too, a Kiner from the University of Cincinnati. I think he's a physical runner like him, but this will be the best running back we've seen and potentially the best we've seen throughout the whole year. So how does this defensive line respond? What does the linebacker room do? Obviously, P.J. O'Brien will not be playing in the first 2 quarters in this upcoming game because of a late hit, obviously, a targeting call that was towards the end of the I think it was the third quarter of the Youngstown State game that he got thrown out of. So guess what? Bruce Brookins is going to get his opportunity to show that he deserves more time, and I think that he's going to take care of that opportunity. We're going to see what this team looks like after a bye week. That's really my kind of question mark at this point. How does this team respond after having a week off? I think it was great for Desmond Reed to have 2 weeks off to get his body healthy for the majority of reps and the amount of snaps that he takes in a game. Rodney Hammond will certainly help out with that. You still have Derek Davis, Daniel Carter, Joel Goff. I think those guys will really be productive in the run game when you get more and more guys in there. But also, too, I think we'll actually start seeing a lot more over the middle with Gavin Bartholomew. I think when you look at the matchups overall, Gavin Bartholomew should really display himself as a guy who can really get some more touches. People just guard Gavin Bartholomew at a high rate because, he's been productive in the past. People look for him. But now it's hard to double team him or put extra pressure on him when you got guys like Kenny Johnson out there, Kenate Mumfield, Raphael Poppy Williams, C.J. Lee, Dejon Reynolds. The targets are everywhere. Jake Overman, the transfer tight end who's really had a good job coming in here and playing at a high level, coming over from Oregon State. I think he's done a really good job. So overall, things are just going in the right direction for Pitt right now. I think it's a positive time. Again, and we've seen the tweets out from Alliance 412. If you're not an Alliance 412 member, I suggest that you do. We will need it after this year. There's a lot of talent on this football team. Obviously, Kenate Mumfield will not be back. He'll be going to the National Football League. Gavin Bartholomew will go to the NFL. These guys will be off, but there's plenty of guys still here. And I think that Pitt really has a really good opportunity to go on a run here. And I think collectively, the university, but also too the fan base needs to collectively get behind this. Obviously Pitt's going to be on the road this week, but they will be back against Cal. I expect Pitt fans to show up in drones for the Cal game. It's going to be an important game. But overall, get behind this football team right now. Pitt has an opportunity to do something at an elite level this year and build on it for years to come, even after a 3-9 football season. I can't remember his name on Twitter, but it was a total jackass. Coach Wazoo or something, whatever his name was, said Pitt went 9 games in 2 years. Well, they're already at 4 wins. So it just goes to show you that, the negativity really isn't there. I tried telling you guys there's a lot of talent on this football team, but coaching matters. And right now, schematically, the coaches that have been brought in, how they coach, and how they develop truly means something. And I think that the fan base getting behind this football team means something. There is something truly to prove. We're 4-0. We haven't achieved anything yet. Conference play starts, but it's really time to just jump on board with this and get after it at this point. And I think it's a really big opportunity to jump on board. The comment section here, you guys have hit it up here. Team Man, a guy who always supports the show. Team Man, I appreciate you. Chicken, same thing. And WR Pitt and Adam. How is Hammond rolled out for the season, then all of a sudden now eligible to play? What an odd turn of events. Team Man, I think there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we don't know. I've heard a lot. I don't know a positive about which one it was. And the two things that I've heard, you guys have probably heard a lot of stuff too, but we don't know for sure. Was probably ruled ineligible because one, I know there was a conversation behind closed doors with Heather liking compliance and whatever what he did. I think that there was more of a sign of caution. I think that they've cleared that. They've done a good job of doing their due diligence, and there won't be any problems going forward. So I don't know what really occurred before the season. I know it happened really, towards the end of spring, beginning of summertime, but things have turned the tide. And they've done their due diligence. They've taken care of it. He's done what he needed to do, meaning Rodney Hammond and the university, and he's back. So that's really the only two things I'm really concerned about at this point. What I've heard is that Heather Lyke had a suspension in place through her stricter policy. Now that she's gone, which means it reverts back to university policy, so now he's good. Is that true? Again, Pitt fan 1993, I heard there's a little bit of discussion behind the scenes about that. I've heard that from a couple people, how she did things. There were people that weren't really seeing eye to eye on the suspension for whatever it was. All I know is that, they waited for 4 or 5 weeks. They worked it out with compliance, whatever was done. They made sure that they did their due diligence, that nothing could come back down the road. And I think they did the right thing. I've heard a couple things of what Rodney could have done. I think that they, possibly the suspension was deserved. But overall, he's done his time, and he is 100% eligible, no restrictions, nothing holding him back. Pitt did things the right way. They took care of it, and, here we are. So I think it's kind of where we are. But I know for a fact Heather did have stricter rules in terms of compliance and what she was really involved with, from what I've been told from my sources, that she had a stricter policy. But now that she's gone, I think there's probably a little bit more to that. I think there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, as I was told, in terms of clearance and what he was able to do and finding ways around that. But they did, and there's no restrictions on him, and he'll be able to go full go here on out. Chicken, I'm impressed with Pitt. Happy for the loyal fan base. Y'all deserve it, Chicken. Thank you so much. I think this fan base continues to grow at a rapid pace. I think it's got great people involved. You certainly have the negative group. You certainly do have some of the crazies. As you can see, I've blocked some of them on Twitter, and they lose their mind, which is always funny to watch in real time. But overall, it's a great fan base, great people. And Pitt's back to where it needs to be in the national spotlight, sitting at 4-0. You're going to Chapel Hill to go for 5-0 now. So let's just see what does Pitt do in terms of taking care of business. So it'll be fun to see going from here. Adam, great to have him back. Gives Reed a breather and keeps him fresh and healthy. Amen, Adam. Again, more depth. And again, as I said before, Desmond Reed now, tomorrow, 5 weeks from now, will be the starter at running back. I think the way that this offense is commenced and the way this offense runs, you need more than one back. These guys will certainly get their touches, but I think it's kind of hard at this point to pull Desmond Reed off the ball field. I'm just beyond excited to see Rodney back, a guy who can really be a 1-2 punch. But you gotta have Desmond Reed on the football field. He's certainly good in pass protection. I love what he can do in the run game, how he hides behind people and is able to create massive gains on the ground, and also too his electric ability to get yards after the catch, and really what we've been looking for years now. So I'm extremely happy for him, and again, another good thing in news for Pitt. Paris, this is great news heading into league play. The emergence of Daniel Carter and the Cheetah, add Davis and Goff, and all of a sudden our running game got deeper and keeps Reed fresher in the fourth quarter. 110%. I agree. And I think that overall, when you look at this from a perspective of, man, you got to be happy with everything that's going on right now. And I think that, Pitt's just got everything moving for him. And I think that the depth is there. Your number one will be Dunton, will be Reed. Hammond will be number two. He's been on the practice squad or the scout team, certainly getting repetition. He's been playing, so it's not like he hasn't played. And he's had a great week of practice. So, I mean, overall, he will be ready to go. He'll be ready to go for the future. You now have really a deep backfield. And I'm really excited to see Joel Scott maybe get some carries later in the season. But also, too, maybe save his red shirt so he can get ready to go for next year. John, we'll have fans at Chapel Hill, 100%. I have fans there going down there, and even from my own office, there's people going down there talking about it. How did Light's presentation before Chancellor Trustees and Boosters mid-July, where she offered a plan to fund approximately $30 million hit increase to the AD budget figure into her firing? Let me read that again. How did Light's presentation before Chancellor Trustees and Boosters in mid-July, where she offered a plan to fund the approximate $30 million hit increase to the AD budget? I mean, overall, I can tell you this right now. She was let go for a number of different reasons. For starters, I'm not going to jump on her about the Victory Heights stuff because I think we can Monday quarterback that thing. We're sitting here in 2024, and you had that conversation about, hey, maybe, obviously we shouldn't have spent that money. It's non-revenue sports, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, this plan was really presented in 2019. It was put together in 17-18. At the time, obviously, Pitt's facilities were lackadaisical. They were horrible. We didn't know that NIL was going to be presented in this way to where it would really just disrupt college football at a different level. Right now, though, I think that really what I was told, and again, from a great source, a guy who's really involved with this, multiple people that are involved with this, it's about going into the future. It's about what are we doing going forward with college football and revenue, and understanding how we build revenue. Joan Gable understands that. She wants to focus on the revenue sports because we're going to need it. When you $20 million in terms of revenue sharing with the players, you've got to find ways to create revenue share. You have to be able to do that kind of stuff. Also, too, she really didn't like NIL. I mean, the amount of times that people behind the scenes that had to beg her just to put out a tweet, to send an email about Alliance 412. Again, I get nothing from Alliance 412. I promote it because it's only going to help the university. And I always laughed at people that said, well, if they're not doing well, I'm not going to donate. Well, then how do you expect the team to get better? Now the team's doing good. Some people are still finding excuses not to invest into Alliance 412. I bumped mine up to the 412 level. I'm not asking anyone to do $100, but the minimum $19.75 a month. $19.79 I think it is, or no, $19.75. So that was the last national championship. Overall, her lack of a plan going forward of how to do these things, where it goes to, I can tell you right now, she certainly had a plan forward for Pitt Stadium. It's a fact. And again, I've told people over and over and over again, I am more prominent and more positive that a stadium will happen because they need it going forward. The perception, what people don't understand on the outside looking in is that you look at attendance, it's a lot of the same, if not better, than majority universities out there. But when these universities have a stadium facility that's between 45 to 55,000, and we're in a 70,000 seat stadium, you're creating a perception as if we don't have a fan base, but when we do, you have to get rid of that perception because it only hurts the program. I think from everything I've been told, Joan Gable understands that. She understands the value in that. She understands how to create revenue. In her time at Minnesota, people don't want to talk about this. In her time at Minnesota, she raised the overall, I'm going to call it a booster, but it's not a booster. I'm drawing a blank on the word. That's horrible. The endowment. She raised the endowment at Minnesota $2 billion. She understands from a large market and a city market of how to build the endowment even more. And right now, Pitt's a top 20 endowment. It's a huge endowment. I think on the outside looking in, there's names out there that people don't know about that are willing to invest in this program, into a stadium. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. I told people this for years. The same thing about the Eli Holstein stuff early on. People called me crazy. This stuff was real. I told people Pitt had talent. I said I was crazy. It's real. This stuff has been building for year after year after year. And then whenever Victory Heights is done, you're going to see more stuff happen. At the end of the day, in terms of conference realignment, where college football is going, there's a lot of moves that need to be made. And we'll see, especially too, when an AD hire is really made. We'll see who the athletic director is going to be. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, but Heather Light's dismissal was because of her lack of a plan, her lack of a plan going forward, or no plan at all. She refused to talk to the media. Obviously, I don't expect her to ever come on a show like this. I'm not a media person at all by any means. I can certainly run an interview. Done it plenty of times. But overall, they understand that we need true leadership to where it's out in front. I mean, you see West Virginia's Ren Baker out there answering questions. You see Penn what's his name? Pat something. I can't remember his last name. He's out there answering questions. You got the Iowa State AD answering questions. In the SEC, they're answering questions. You need true leadership at the top. She was lacking that. And again, by far to this point, she was by far the best athletic director in my lifetime. Turned 30 the other day. In 30 years, she was easily the best athletic director. But when you don't embrace NIL, you don't create enough sponsorships, don't create the corporate and game day experience, you don't have an overall plan, that's going to get you fired. And yes, everyone knows, she spent a lot of money. You look at overall, our facilities right now, it's through the roof. I mean, we have truly some of the best facilities out there. You saw again another facilities upgrade to the south side with Mascaro Construction, doing a tremendous job in terms of the millions that we spent for an upgraded locker room. That stuff goes hand in hand. The same stuff with Acrisure Stadium. That stuff goes hand in hand. But going forward in this next stage, the days of hiring an athletic director with compliance for the NCAA, that shit's gone. You're moving towards a business model of how to create revenue. That's clearly where we're going. And I think that while very thankful for what Heather did, Heather didn't have that acumen, and it's time to go in another direction. And they made that move. So those are my thoughts. I hope I answered your question. Hopefully answered your question. Offense has shifted perspective. I saw a tweet from the Ghost of Whip today that Pitt is averaging 193 rushing yards per game, 522 yards per game total. Under Signetti, who ran a heavy run first offense, averaged 101. Yeah, I mean, but overall, when it gets back to the run game in any offense, if you were one-dimensional, and in terms of Pitt's offense, yes, it was run heavy with Frank Signetti, but when no one's scared of when no one's scared of you throwing the football, they're going to stack the box. And I think that took a long time for Pat Narduzzi to understand that when you stack the box with 8, 9 guys, you're up shit creek. Doesn't matter what your offensive linemen do, how well they hold their assignments. You need to be two-dimensional. If you have a passing game, you will have a running game. If you have a running game, you will have a passing game. If you're two-dimensional and you have the defense playing on their heels, you can create a lot of massive plays. It's that simple. And I think that the one thing Cade Bell did really well against West Virginia was he understood, hey, we're passing the ball at a high, rapid rate right now against West Virginia. It looks like Swiss cheese out there. Take advantage of their major weakness. I mean, their pass defense at West Virginia was horrific. I mean, and he did a great job of understanding, hey, I'll run the ball every once in a while, but guess what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the good sign of an offensive coordinator. And there's going to be some games where, the run game's working. We're going to run the football. I'm okay with that. But at the end of the day, we're here to score points. And Pat Narduzzi finally understands that. I think it's a major leadership, really not change, but adjustment, adapting to the times. And it's a lot like in corporate America. If you refuse to adapt, you will die. Kodak, Blockbuster, organizations like that, two organizations that were in their prime in the day, but now are gone because those two companies didn't adapt. You have today where really companies are adapting and staying ahead of the times. Amazon, Netflix, companies like even in banking, overall retail. That's how you stay a step ahead. You have to be changing on an evolution that's never seen before. So I think that overall, Pat Narduzzi made the change because he goes, you know what? I want to win football games. If we're going to win in this time of where we are in college football, where it's a lot harder to play defense now, we got to score points. And he understood that. BC Thompson, I could see Hammond in the Wildcat offense plays. Oh, my God, yeah. I think here and there, but I think overall, I think that'll certainly be a good change of pace and then get the hot candidate Eli Holston back on the field. Glad to have him back. Nobody behind Reed has proven to be the number 2 back. I agree with that. I know Carter had a great game behind Youngstown State, but that was Youngstown State. Like a great 1-2 punch team, man. I agree. John, we wasted all that money on garbage when we should have invested in on on-campus stadium, a state-of-the-art football facility. I mean, I disagree. We can Monday quarterback this thing, whatever. At the end of the day, there's funding for the on-campus stadium, or not even just on campus. The Pitt football stadium has funding, so it's not like it's going to be all coming from Pitt, and Pitt wouldn't be able to pay for all that anyways. But the funding there outside of that from major donors that I know of that have already committed money towards it, so that has nothing to do with it. That doesn't matter. They have the money for it anyways. And their football facility right now, where are they going to go? I mean, they're on the South Side facility. When the Steelers move out in a year or two, they'll take over the rest of the building. They'll have plenty of stuff to do. They'll have donors for that as well, like they have done in the past. I'm not concerned about that. He's a young man, made a mistake, worked his way back, moved forward. We all F up. Amen, chicken. Amen, brother. I got Pitt 27-17. Could be wrong. UNC just a bit behind team-wise. Mark, I agree, and here's why. I think Pitt probably scored more points. When you lose back-to-back games the way that they lost, and again, we'll talk more about it tomorrow on the video that I release tomorrow morning. Overall, I think when you watch this team from a perspective of, they lost 2 games. They lost 70-50 against James Madison, which was horrific. But then they lose a rivalry game to Duke, and they blow a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter. That's not good. And I think this team is really on the brink. I can tell you right now, their offensive tackles have played horrific. I think this is an opportunity for Pitt's defensive line to try to get on the right track, create some pressure on the outside. Same thing on the inside. But they certainly can run the football. Amari and Hampton, man, Pitt's got to stop the run on Saturday. Amari and Hampton is a real dude. He is the best running back we have faced to this point. I can tell you that right now. Amari and Hampton's going to be really good. I think, Criswell, the quarterback, he's a third-string quarterback for North Carolina. I think he's done a good job at times. There's been times where he's just made numerous turnovers here and there. He continues to learn. This is a game Pitt should take care of overall. And I think that, when you're 0-7 against a team at their stadium, you should take this one to the grip, get out there, and just look to get in their ass and start pushing them around and not let up. That's one thing I love about Cade Bell. He doesn't let up. But the foot is always on the gas pedal, which is great. So I think overall, I agree with you. I think Pitt does win. I think they score some points. I think overall we'll have 30 plus, and then I think I'll give North Carolina. I'll give them 21 points. That's what I'll put it at. I'm tired of these West Virginia fans like Justin Coos and Mountaineer Paul not giving our players respect. I think Coos is corner. I like him, man. I think he does a great job over there for West Virginia. He's got a partner over there, Jonathan, who does a really good job. Mountaineer Paul, I mean, he blocked me on Twitter not too long ago, but he's a guy that I think overall he talks so much smack all year long, and then starts running away from people after he said personal stuff about players and made up a lot of stories for content purposes. And I've watched Paul's, a lot of his stuff, when I respected him. He got a lot of stuff wrong. He didn't do a lot of research on a lot of things. He's got to be a lot better on a lot of topics. But I mean, he's got to do things for content, I guess. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's their opinion. That's fine. That's their opinion. But overall, when it comes to West Virginia content, I mean, Coos' corner is the best. I think he does a great job over there, and he's very fair on how he evaluates West Virginia. And if our schedules weren't too messed up to where we were so busy, I was busy with work, he was busy with work, I'd have been on Coos' corner to preview the backyard brawl. I like what he does over there. I think Coos does a great job, and I think people should subscribe to his show because he does a great job and he's very fair. So that's my opinion. Um, Overall, though, when you look at just Rodney Hammond, it's good to see him back to where he needs to be. And again, I'm happy with where this defense is. I'm happy to where we get to see this football team in terms of what they look like after a bye week and hear why this is important. We have a bye week now. What will look like on Saturday will be interesting because then we have a bye week in 3 weeks. You have, well, I guess technically 2 weeks. You've got North Carolina, you've got Cal, and then Pitt has another bye week again. This will tell us a lot of what do they look like after a bye week. And I want to see an aggressive football team. I want to see a football team as a chip on their shoulder that, yeah, they're 4-0, but nothing's been achieved yet. You've done nothing to this point. That's great. You won the backyard brawl. That's great. Whoop-de-doo. That's great. You beat your rival. I'm happy about it. It's important. But in terms of the conference, nothing's been done yet. This is your first conference game. Started off right. Get to 5-0. Understand where you are in terms of the standings. And I've said this before. You look overall. You look overall with what the where is it here? The ACC standings. You look overall at the ACC. I said it was a really good conference. I said it was going to be deep. Take a look at some of the standings right here. Let's see here. Yeah, so again, good stuff right here. I mean, look at just overall, I think, I probably could share my screen if I wanted to. Let me see here. I am going to share my screen with you guys, actually. It'll be good for you guys to see what I'm talking about. I'm an eye candy guy. I got to see what's going on. Steven, I mean, Virginia Tech showed some of Miami's weaknesses, but at the same time, though, Miami's been crushing everybody anyways. And I think Virginia Tech's not as bad as people think, but they're not as good as people think, and they got a long way to go. And Brent Pry, he's got a long way to go as well. Let me see here. Present, share screen. All right. So here, when you look at the overall standings in the ACC, obviously, you got Clemson at the top right now because they're 2-0 in the conference. But look at the amount of football teams. And again, I'm going to talk about a couple teams here, but Clemson's having a tremendous year so far, 3-1. They're only lost to Georgia, who was really at the number one spot for a long time so far into the season. Here was a preseason number one. Duke sitting at 5-0 after their win. Miami 5-0. I think they've had a harder schedule. Obviously, they destroyed Florida in the opening game, embarrassed them on a national schedule. Boston College. I want to talk about Boston College for a second because this is on Pitt's schedule, and this is a game I got like a 50-50 shot because they're actually a really good football team. Bill O'Brien, he's up there, the new head football coach. He's an great offensive mind up there. Boston College has been his dream job for years. People that I know personal to him. He's wanted that Boston College job for a long time. He's doing a tremendous job. They're running the football at a high level. Missouri is a top 10 team. They only lost by 7 points to them. Boston College embarrassed Florida State. We're seeing they're not too great this year, but their defense isn't that bad. And they really did a really great job against them, embarrassed them on a national scale. Boston College also beat Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State's great this year, but it's also a P4 opponent. So you got to give them a little credit on that. Jonathan DiBiaso, former quarterback assistant here at Pitt. He's now the official quarterback coach at Boston College, coaching up Castellanos. Castellanos is having a really good year. But, you look at Boston College, 1-0 in the ACC, 4-1 overall. So you got 4 teams there. SMU has come roaring back. They make a quarterback change. I thought they were crazy at the time by taking Stone out. But, Stone gets taken out at the quarterback position. They put the backup in who had time in last year. They're now on a tear. They absolutely embarrassed Florida State last week. SMU, 1-0 in the conference, 4-1 overall. Louisville, 1-0 in the ACC. 3-1 overall. They lost to Notre Dame this past weekend, only lost by 7 points. I think some critical mistakes down the road really, truly hurt them. They don't make those mistakes. They win that football game. I have a lot of respect for Jeff Brom, the people I know in the coaching industry between the Big Ten who coached against him while he was at Purdue, and now in the ACC as well. Talk nothing but great things about him. Virginia, a surprise by Virginia, 1-0 in the conference, 3-1 overall on the season. Tony Elliott really coaching for his job this year And I got to tell you, it's starting to get a little bit warmer as he's starting to go 3-1. There's progression there. Stanford 2-2, obviously 1-1 in the conference. Their one win was against Syracuse. I can't remember their other loss, their loss in conference, but overall 2-2, still not a bad football team. I think they're still building that. I think they got a great head football coach. I think they're going to be really good as the years go on. And again, SMU, Stanford, and Cal have been tremendous adds so far to this conference. Again, infused. Those three additions infused $600 million into the ACC network and into the ACC overall distribution deal. That was a great ad, but overall, the productive level of football that they're playing right now has been really good for the conference. Syracuse 1-1 in the conference, 3-1 overall. Their one loss came against Stanford. 3-1 overall. I think Fran Brown, Kyle McCord playing at a high level. Their defense had a little bit of shaky here and there, but Fran Brown's really coaching his football team up. We knew he was a good football coach coming from Georgia. How he runs things, he really runs it like an SEC program, from what I've been told up there. I think he hired great assistant coaches, great coordinators. Took a lot of guys, especially Robinson from Texas A&M. I think he's a tremendous defensive mind. The fact that he's a defensive coordinator there means something. He'll build that over time. But I like what he's doing there at Syracuse. That'll be an interesting game as well. Georgia Tech 1-2 in the conference, 3-2. They started off hot. Obviously won the game over in Ireland against Florida State. I think they're actually not as bad as they look. I think they're going to continue to see how they look overall, but they're still a tough football team. Florida State, call it what it is. Their offense is horrendous. DJU is not a good quarterback by any means. If you saw yesterday, I retweeted a tweet talking about how Mike Norvell, his buyout's at $85 million right now. So guess what, Florida State fans? He's staying there for a long-ass time. So I said he wasn't a great football coach in terms of what he's been able to do. He's had a couple good years back-to-back before. But he's had some bad seasons. He's going to have another bad season here again. I told people he was really not a guy, a candidate for the Alabama job because he didn't produce enough. I think he didn't prove enough. And here we are. He's 1-4, 1-3 in the conference. And a school like Florida State suing the ACC, saying that they're above the ACC. The ACC is really kicking their ass at this point. So that's called poetic justice. So personally, I love seeing that. Let's see here if we go down here. Obviously, Pitt has not played a conference game yet. That's why they're lower on this list. But obviously, they're 4-0. We've seen how they've played. Cal, 0-1 in the conference. But overall, 3-1 overall. They had some really impressive wins early on. Obviously, one of the top wins they've had is obviously against Auburn out of the SEC. Good win they had there. Obviously, then you have UNC. UNC, who obviously has just not looked good. They had a couple good wins early on, but now they're sitting at 3-2. NC State, Grayson McCall did not look good early on at the quarterback position to transfer out of Coastal Carolina. And they're struggling on defense and on offense. They got absolutely obliterated by Tennessee. Dave Dorn, I think, is in for a tough year for NC State unless they get things really corrected. And then Virginia Tech and Wake Forest at the bottom. I personally agree these two are probably deserve to be at the bottom. I think Virginia Tech has shown strides to get better here and there, but they're just playing at a very low level right now. Both of them 0-1. Wake Forest, I think, is by far the worst team in the conference, and they're really competing with Florida State. But I think if Florida State and Wake Forest faced off, Florida State would win that football game. So overall, again, I've said people before, this is a good conference. It's a deep conference. It's a lot of good football in this conference. I love the additions that we've had. The $600 million infused in the ACC and the ACC deal. They're playing a great brand of football. On the outset, we had a winning record against the Big 12. I think we had an even record against the SEC. We had a winning record against the Big 10. Obviously, North Carolina beat up on Minnesota early on in the season. Duke beat Northwestern early on in the season. Boston College beat Michigan State early on in the season. So, the ACC is doing what it's supposed to do and winning football games. And, for me, I'm being an ACC guy. I'll start doing more ACC content for all the fans that reach out to me about the ACC stuff. It's a good conference. And I've told people before, there's a lot of production in this conference. So stop sharing my screen there. Back to some of the comments here. JJ, good luck the rest of the season. Timothy Green, I appreciate it. Same to you, man. Good luck to West Virginia. ACC, a one-bid lead, the AC champion. That's it. Steven, I disagree with you, and a lot of people disagree with you. Probably the way it's going right now, Clemson and Miami look to be the top two, and potentially if Pitt continues to ride this wave, they would be a team that gets in regardless if they win it or they don't win it. The same thing goes with SMU. They're up there. Boston College is still up there with one loss. So, no, I disagree. Pitt 27-16, slugfest. Maybe. I think Pitt will score more points because the way the UNC's defense is playing. Rip the blue and gold, dude. I know. Yep, I understand that. I absolutely need Pitt to win by 4 and don't even like them. Yep, Daniel. Obviously, people don't know Dan is a West Virginia fan. Obviously, again, it was nice beating up on West Virginia and winning that game in the backyard brawl. It'll be cool to see them go down to West Virginia next season. But overall, guys, that's really it's kind of all we got. Unless there's more questions here, I think that's really all I got. Guys, again, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of Talking College Football. An episode tomorrow morning will be dropping for the Pitt preview, Pitt versus UNC preview. Obviously, if you have not done so, subscribe to the channel. If you're over on X, head over to what's it called here? Oh, here's my man, David McKenzie. David McKenzie, who we had an interview with here. Hail to Pitt. Thank you, David. And if you haven't, subscribe to the channel and scroll down. You'll see the interview with David. He did a tremendous job, laid out everything with the ACC media deal. We talked about conference realignment, the overall structure, the chances of FSU or Clemson getting out, and everything he talked about has come to fruition. So if you haven't seen that, head on down. You'll see the interview with him. An incredible attorney. And also, too, we'll be getting him back on the show to update as we go towards the season. Maybe the next bye week here in a couple weeks for Pitt. We'll get him back on here if he has time because obviously he's a busy man, just like myself. So, again, appreciate you, David, everything you do. And you do a tremendous job and your breakdowns. And I love your content, your knowledge overall. So I really appreciate everything you do, David. So again, guys, if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel, like the video. If you're over on X, head to YouTube, subscribe. And if you subscribe, you will get the update tomorrow morning with the preview of the Pitt versus UNC game. Obviously, it's going to be Friday tomorrow. It'll be a fun day. One more day until game day. So, guys, that'll do it here for us. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Guys, as always and forever, hail to Pitt. I'll see you guys next time.